I can tell you tonight, as we report, officials in the U.S. and Iran are confirming that the Strait of Hormuz is back fully open, at least as of this hour. That's a contentious issue, and one, of course, that became a problem only when the U.S. started this war under Trump. Many view it as a potential step towards de-escalation and ultimately a kind of peace. But, and I will tell you, when there's good news, there's good news. I'm not trying to rain on that parade, but the way it's come out from the Trump side and this administration has at least involved some confusion. The president is saying that the U.S. blockade is still in place. So you have dueling headlines and claims, but you also have, as has happened so many times in this 7 to 8 week war, we have reality on the ground. The Strait was shut for weeks, and that caused serious harm to the global economy. It is not the kind of thing, as we have reported and experts have really emphasized across many hours of our reporting, you don't just flip it back on and everything goes back to the way it was. Everyday Americans already can feel this, whether they follow foreign policy closely or not. We know it with the gas, we know it with the high prices, and we've seen other warnings about a cascade of inflation to come, even if we get through this energy crisis right now. We're already seeing the pinch with Americans who were trying to get by before this war, and this energy crisis pushed them over. People turning to local food banks, scenes reminiscent of the COVID era, where people who worked hard to get by suddenly were faced with an external event that made them more food insecure, having a tighter budget. Not because of anything they did wrong, but because of external events. In this case, a man-made, Trump-made war. Some forced to choose, they say, between food or the gas that gets them to work.
You have to decide whether you put gas or you buy your food. So that's my point. Like, either I put gas this week or I buy a week's worth of food, you know?
Everything is expensive.
It's just more expensive gas. Like, the necessities have gotten more expensive. Like, things we shouldn't have to pay $5, $6 a gallon of gas. Like, it's absurd.
That's the reality people are living through. Trump, for his part, has said gas isn't very high priced to begin with right now.
How much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon with the danger that entails. So the gas prices have come down very much over the last 3-4 days.
This is one of those times where the president's allies, many Republicans, don't think he's helping his cause. Americans are paying over $1 above the average price per gallon than, again, just about 2 months ago with the start of the war. And everyone knows the war caused this. Experts say the damage is done. It's now baked in. A top economist says prices for some goods might stay high for a while or not even ever go back to the time before Trump's war. And that's a kind of complicated set of economics there, but the bottom line is, like I said, it's not a switch. Trump claims things are going very well. The facts are hard for the Republicans to tackle as they head towards the midterms. Trump spent the week on a series of self-inflicted errors and feuds on the home front, while externally the reality in the Strait and whether they get through ceasefire and towards a long-term resolution of this war is, of course, the big question in reality. And there are signs that some in the markets and some in the international community think that is happening. So that would be, again, a good thing, but it doesn't mean we get overnight relief. Trump is struggling with the coalition that he did put together in 24, and that appears to be because of what I'm telling you about. The high prices, the failure to deliver on his issues, a sense that he is, if not distracted, outright looking at the wrong things and the wrong issues, starting forever wars, struggling with the Epstein issue that dogged him for many months. That's a part of the building problems on the right. And a view that basically he doesn't deliver, doesn't get it done. Here was the once MAGA ally, now a little more independent sounding Joe Rogan.
So what do you think of what's going on in Iran?
It's terrifying. It's like, what the f are we doing?
Yeah,
like, how is this still going on? Most people that voted for Trump or wanted Trump to be in office, one of the things that was attractive was this no more wars.
Sure, of course.
And now we're in one of the craziest ones.
Yeah, I think that they see it clearly. This whole thing is crazy. Let's be honest. Trump has completely screwed everything up. He was arrogant. He showed terrible judgment. He thought this would be, as he always says, so easy. that he would be able to go into this country of 90 million people, try to topple a regime, install, as he did in Venezuela, a dictator of his choice. Maybe perhaps get the Iranian people to rise up and change the regime themselves. However, when you go in there and you drop bombs and you kill people, including in some cases school children, people don't blame their leaders. They blame you. America is the one that started this. They're the ones who are getting the blame by the Iranian people. And the democracy movement that existed in Iran before is got to be much weaker now that we have shown what democracies do and how badly they can perhaps behave.
Professor Greer, in political science, you look to various metrics, right? Political science is not actually just politics, which all of us can debate. And I was looking at the metric today as we close the week. People are hurting. We led with that because we think that's news, that this war is hurting people. And we heard the voice of some Americans struggling through this. Wall Street and the billionaire class, they're doing great. And they believe, the markets think, closing the week, that the war is ending. And I'll show the chart because they're trading on that. If you look at just the U.S. market, that spike, which really comes off the fall that you see in April from the Trump war. It did obviously spike after the war. And today you see these all-time highs. They think the war is ending. What do you think of that data point and this great gulf between them profiting off that expectation right now while most people are paying higher gas prices?
Well, I mean, Ari, there's sort of two different actions. One is the economy and one is real pocketbook issues of millions upon millions of Americans. And so Wall Street is rallying because, the president said he'd feel it in his bones. And it seems as though he's feeling it in his bones, allegedly. And so we see that the markets tend to rally because of that. And we know that, the billionaire class and the millionaire class always makes money off of war. However, citizens go to the polls based on pocketbook issues. Can I afford gas? Is my rent going up? Can I afford to keep my home? The list goes on. Do I have a job? And so we're dealing with a president who consistently is erratic and showing signs of cognitive decline. Sure. But, he's in many ways a political arsonist in the sense that he's always been able to start a fire and then put out the fire and then look at the American people and say, see, I helped you out. I created these jobs. Never mind saying that he's the one, who caused the job loss in the first place. He can tell HBCUs, I funded HBCUs, even though he defunded them in the first place. So we've seen this time and time again. The war on Iran is very different because there's been no justification. And many Americans said, you promised that, especially his supporters, you promised that we would be first. You promised that we would not have extra wars. We would not spend money overseas. We would not actually do this anti-small d democratic warmongering that, America is now known for decades upon decades. And he swore that that was not going to happen. Everything was going to be America first. And it has been the quintessential antithesis of that since he has come into office and let, Elon Musk and Doge sort of take over from the very beginning days, firing hundreds of thousands of Americans, 350,000 black women to be specific. And the list has gone downhill from there. And so when he says, it doesn't matter if your house prices go up, that should be a good thing, right? I don't think that inflation's going up. I don't think that gas prices are going up. That's just, Joe Biden trying to, sully my name. Americans feel it at the gas prices, at the gas tank. They can see it. They see it at the grocery store with every single item that's higher because of his tariffs for no reason. And so I think we're finally starting to see cracks in the foundation with his diehard supporters, but I don't know how long that'll last. I think, I'm of the mind where it's like none of the morality issues ever moved them. So I don't know if the real pocketbook issues will, the way political science theorists have always said that would be a main cause for dissatisfaction.
Yeah, but it's hard to spin the reality. And Che, this is very Biden-esque. We heard both President Biden and some of his aides during the peak of that inflation try to tell people, our economy is the envy of the world. Yeah, well, the prices weren't. and it's really striking to watch this enfeebled, erratic version of Donald Trump go full Biden. And I don't mean early Biden or middle Biden. I mean what was late stage inflation Biden. And so you have that problem. And then you have all of these religious squabbles that no political expert would tell any party, either party, attack the Pope, say you're Jesus, misquote the Bible out of Pulp Fiction. And you are our resident movie buff. I want to show some of that from Hegseth and get your response on the other side.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Check.
Yeah, so what he was doing there by using the fake Bible quote from Pulp Fiction, which is actually from a Sonny Chiba martial arts film from the early 70s that Tarantino saw and liked, is that he was engaging in macho posturing. But I would argue that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump did not pay attention to Pulp Fiction enough. Because if you watch the movie, at the end of the movie, Samuel L. Jackson requotes that verse and then says, you know, I said this because it sounded like a cold thing to say before I kill someone. It made me look tough. It made me feel tough. It was macho posturing of the kind that we see Hegseth and Trump do. But then Samuel L. Jackson says, maybe this means that I am the tyranny of evil men, and I should try real hard to be the shepherd. And so he chooses at the end of that movie nonviolence. He lets Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer walk out of that diner. And that is something, a lesson that Hegseth and Trump could learn.